All right. Hi, professor and class. This presentation is regarding an article on the American Marketing Association regarding improving digital marketing body language. I found that this was really important kind of in our day and age and how COVID has really changed everything. And I found it really fascinating. And so, yeah. So some background on this is we want to define implicit body language. So these are kind of the small decisions we make, such as how we write a thank you letter. In a sense, it's the little things we communicate through the screen rather than with our bodies. And we know communication has changed drastically, and it's caused so much more confusion among, students and professors and people in the professional field. So there's essentially four key principles that were in this article. Number one is the medium is the message. Punctuation is the new measure of emotion. Timing is the new measure of respect. 2CC and BCC are the new cues of inclusion on email. So for the first one, the medium is the message. We want to know how and when to use each medium. So an example of this is, email versus text message. Okay, you're going to text your friends, but you want to email or use Canvas messaging when you're talking to someone, a professor, and then strictly email typically when communicating with someone in your professional field. And we want to look into the importance of who we're communicating with. So what's the level of importance in this message? Is it something that's urgent? Is this something that can wait? And who are you communicating with? I mean, this ties back into the professor versus the professional versus the friend. Having that level of professionalism depending on your audience, similar to in-person, face-to-face. So punctuation is the new measure of emotion. Digital communication filters out 60 to 80% of the nonverbal communication that we're used to when we're face to face. And so it's making those little changes to kind of implement that emotion into what you're doing and how you're communicating. And so some examples of these are exclamation marks, ellipses, and caps. And these are some things that people have started to implement into their emails and forms of communication to give more of a personality, give more emotion behind what they're saying. So if they're excited about something, they're not going to put a period. If they want to elaborate or make something seem more loud, they're going to use all caps. So these are things that I've seen as well, and it's really, really interesting. And an interesting idea is the use of emojis. So this is something that was talked about in the article, just of people starting to use emojis and see how that kind of adds to the emotion, because it shows more than words can say. So timing is the new measure of respect. As we know, when you're face to face with someone, it's really easy to determine timing. It's, you're 5 minutes early, you get there, you're having that meeting. Whereas, when you're communicating digitally, we don't know if you've seen the email. If you're ill or you're going through something, it might take a little bit longer to respond. And so non-answers have become more relaxed and timing in that sense as well. So what some leaders have done to kind of go against this is creating guidelines to communicate and to really improve timeliness. So they might say, oh, you have 24 or 48 hours to respond to this email, just to ensure that they are keeping their team accountable. And finally, we have 2CC and BCC and how these are the new cues of inclusion. So, we're ultimately adding to the conversation. If you're having a conversation with a coworker and you want to CC your employer, that's something that you can do. It's kind of an analogy to a football game, whereas when you're just having a one-on-one conversation, the article talks about how it's like practice, whereas when you're CCing other individuals that can be a part of the conversation. Now you have an audience, and now it's a game. So you want to think about who needs to be here, who does this pertain to, who is this important to, and who does it affect. And then it really creates a sense of consciousness. You know, when you're just emailing one person, it's like, okay, like we're having this conversation, but it's not really being monitored. Whereas when there are others on the CC, you're more conscious of what you're saying. You're like, oh, there's more people that are kind of aware of this. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you. I have implemented an emoji to kind of tie into the theme of this presentation. And yeah, so thank you for listening.